Hello and welcome to a very special Star Citizen Siege of Orison podcast with me, BoredGamer, and the lovely Zinnia. Say hello, Zin.
Hello, Zin.
We were able to play in the Sunday playtest on Star Citizen Alpha 3.17.2 PTU for the Siege of Orison, and it was interesting. Relatively good fun, had its problems. I'm going to go through what the Siege of Orison is, and then me and Sin are going to talk about our experiences of playing that together and sometimes not together, even though we want to play together. It was big and complex. So the mission is like a dynamic event in-game. So it appears on your Mobiglass in priority, and you take that mission. You're at Crusader at Orison. You will have to take a shuttle to some contested, war-torn floating platforms. Now, while you're there, so actually let's talk about that. Coming into those platforms, so we're at Orison. We get that mission. We have to find the shuttle that takes us to those platforms. What did you think about actually going into the zone and the sort of setup for that, sort of the audio messages we got and the area we had to leave off from, and then actually entry into the platforms?
I think the initial part of it was good. Like, even though it was a bit of a long journey on the shuttle, I think that's kind of a good chance for people to get in groups, maybe, if there's a lot of people on the shuttle.
Yes, that's...
I mean, we had
true.
it that it was just us on our shuttle, but I think we arrived a little bit late for the start of the mission because we didn't know where we were going.
Other times we were sort of coming in, like later if we had died or we had gone into a different server or whatever, there were a load of other people in those shuttles. And at some point, actually, we were able to... I was like, if anyone asks me to join a group, I'll join a group and we'll see what happens. Because and that happened very early on, and we were in a reasonably big group, and then they invited Zin as well, and we were able to run around and do silly things. But yeah, you are waiting. So you go up to the sort of top of the Crusader showroom building, and there's a shuttle that leaves from there to go to that mission set. And you can be waiting for a couple of minutes for that shuttle to turn up, 2-3 minutes, and then it's like another 3 or so minutes to actually get to the platform. But it does a nice thing of there's audio and an explanation. There's a proper briefing of that mission when they first give you the mission, and then when you're on your way to the mission, Rona Dooley turns up and basically just goes, look, this is what you're doing, this is what the platform you're going to is like, this is what you need to do, and then you're moving on to the next platforms, and then outlines some things that you shouldn't do. So the platforms there, they are a no-fly zone, and they have lots and lots of AI turrets that will shoot any friendly ships, basically. So there's a little machine that the friendly fire inverter or whatever that the Ninetales are using.
Friend and foe inverter, I think it was.
Friend and foe inverter. They are using to basically control the airspace there. So you can't bring in external ships from like the spaceport, which is annoying, and we did test that to make sure that you couldn't do that. But you can take ships that are at that zone, because when you're at those floating platforms, there are ships that you can take. You can use those, but there are air defenses unless you turn them off. And so once you've assaulted the platforms, you've attacked them and taken out the sort of lieutenant there, because each platform is controlled by a lieutenant. You can then get some codes to then turn off the anti-air guns, which will then allow you a bit more supremacy on those platforms and actually be able to take ships up without them immediately exploding. So the general sort of feel, once we got onto the platforms and we were running around, there was some friendly AI there that we were like, oh, are these friendly or not? But you can tell if they're friendly or not because they've got markers above their heads. Friendlies have markers. Yes. that's. I think that's a bug when they don't, and that's really annoying when markers disappear from people, especially when you've got used to these are friendlies. And so friendly NPCs and players that have proven themselves not to be hostile yet. So as long as they're not currently hostile, they've basically got a marker above there, as long as they're not a criminal. So that's really useful as long as those markers don't disappear.
I think after my first death, the markers just disappeared. I couldn't even see you or anybody in my party's marker either. So that's definitely a bug.
So yeah, we played the start of the event, and then we went on to another server to play on the event again. Because what happened was we were assaulting the first lieutenant, finding him to attack him, and then a player took out another player in front of us. So Zin took him out. Zin got a criminal rating, and then the guy got up after getting healed, and then took Zin out. So I took him out, and then I got a criminal rating. So when you get a criminal rating, you get kicked off the mission. And we're like, oh, that's pretty lame. So the handling of crime stats and that sort of stuff, it was a bit weird in that area. It felt like maybe that was all just accidental and coincidental, but it could have just been a troll, sort of like to get us to get criminal ratings. Because that guy didn't seem to have a criminal rating. Well, we don't actually know for sure.
Well, I don't think he would have, because otherwise we wouldn't have had a criminal rating.
It could have just been a bug that any player that you kill in the area gets you a criminal rating. I mean, it's Star Citizen. It's a PTU testing a new sort of a dynamic event. There could be a million bugs. But that was a bit annoying. So we sort of relogged, reset our accounts, jumped back in, and started again. And the first two lieutenants had been sort of already killed. So basically what happens is that once you take out one of these lieutenants, there are ships that you could use on the top of some buildings to fly over to the next platform. But those AA guns, they're dangerous. And if you haven't turned the AA guns off on your current platform, that's dangerous as well. And there's a big range of ships. There's like little Pisces shuttles, there's Hercules, there's Mercury Star Runners, there's Infernos that don't fly because they've only got one wing. Zin found later in the
I'm sure it
session.
had both wings when I took off, so I'm not sure what happened.
Well, maybe it was your fantastic flying techniques. But I did find that when I actually took off on those ships, they sort of immediately pointed a random direction. So I suppose if you took off, they could have just broken part of it off as you took off. It's very much in testing this dynamic event, and if they fix a load of these bugs, it's going to be a pretty good fun, because we did have a good amount of fun, right? Even though, and we'll come to it later, weird stuff happened. You take out the sort of lieutenants at these platforms, and you move on to the next platform. There are lots and lots of signposting going on. So there's on your HUD, it will tell you where the tram, the shuttle to the next platform is, or to one of the other platforms are. There's also some sort of stations that you might be able to find later that you can actually send out to another platform. So like we found one from the starting platform that would take us to one of the last platforms, for example.
Super handy.
Super handy, but it wasn't marked. We sort of turned up on...
it wasn't marked on my HUD, so most of them you could actually see as a marker, a waypoint sort of marker. But if you check the map for the shuttle system, like as you see around the area, it actually tells you that there's that platform that takes you to that last area. Yeah.
And so
I used my head.
You did. You used your head, and it was smart. So basically, you fight your way through these platforms, moving between them with shuttles, typically, then turning off the AA guns on those platforms. It's a sensible idea. And then eventually, you've got to assault the admin platform, which is a little bit different than the others, because the only way to get there, from what I can tell, is using ships. And it has turrets. So it's got its AA turrets. It's dangerous. It's really dangerous. So lesser ships, anything smaller than a Hercules will get taken out pretty quickly if they're not doing just strafing runs. So some players will try and take out turrets. There's a load of turrets, and just weakening them is probably a good idea. Other players will try and just get a Hercules over an area and run out quick before they explode. Typically, mostly, I saw a lot of ships exploding.
Yeah.
And there are a limited amount of ships before you effectively fail as well. So ships don't respawn. The AI, they keep on getting FPS reinforcements magically. There's no ships that turn up to drop them off, unfortunately. Maybe they will with the dropship AI tech in the future. Or maybe they'll go, actually, this is a way we can respawn some of the ships for players to use if they're having a bad time. Because we keep on sending AI reinforcements in. They've got to turn up somehow. But yeah, so the lack of ships sometimes is a bit annoying. Although a bit of organisation, I suspect that it'll be you won't have a problem with a lack of ships. When we were assaulting the admin platform, we were in a group with a load of other people. Ran back into the back of a Hercules. They dropped us off. We were like, fantastic, running out. There's explosions going on everywhere. It was a really cool feeling, right, Zin? With the doors open. We were under constant fire from these AA guns.
Some guy drove out in a, what are those buggy things called?
A Tumbrel Cyclone.
I think it was, yeah, one of those. He drove out on that onto the platform. It was beautiful. I thought he was going to blow up.
Lots of missiles coming towards you. So when they've got the doors open and then you're just getting assaulted by a load of flak and lasers and explosions, it's pretty cool fun. Especially when you're like, I don't want to die before we land. But we briefly landed and got out. And we were like, yes, we've landed. Did the ship explode immediately afterwards or did it fly off?
I think it literally, we got out and then a couple of seconds later it exploded.
Unfortunately, we had been left on a little platform with no way of getting up to the main platform.
Yes.
So we were stranded on this quite big, open, empty area, just watching AA guns and these turrets just shoot all the other ships out of the sky while we were calling for people to come and rescue us. And anytime someone came to rescue us, they'd explode.
Yep. It was unfortunate.
And then me and Sin sort of got exploded by some AoE damage. And then Sin got knocked off the edge of a platform when she was getting healed by one of the Herculeses that came to rescue us. And then we sort of got separated from each other while we were trying to work out how to assault this admin platform. While we were quite low on ships was the problem. So people were trying to work out what ships were.
I found it wasn't very well... I mean, I don't know if it's just me being ignorant, but I found it wasn't very well explained that you then had to use a ship to get onto the admin platform.
We know that you had to use a ship later on to get onto the cargo barge at the end. That's explained. But the admin platform, you can only really realise that when you're trying to assault it or when you look at the maps and go, oh, there's no shuttle that goes there. I did think maybe there was an unmarked shuttle that would go there or something like that, but it does appear, and please correct me if I'm wrong, and maybe CIG will change this, that you have to assault it with ships. And we thought that the best way probably of doing that would be to get in a Hercules and then just drive out the back in a tank, because some of these they're full of vehicles. And you just have to hope that the vehicle doesn't explode when it hits the ground and that you don't miss the platform entirely or get stranded. So that was interesting. Eventually, they did sort of take out a smaller group of people that were in the last couple of ships, took out the lieutenant there, and then it was on to kill the main bad guy on the sort of cargo ship. Now, we had problems where we couldn't find a ship. Ships were getting taken when we got to them, and so we couldn't really get there. So we were sort of like, okay, well, that's a bit of a shame. But I think that next time we played through that we'd have a much better idea of what we're doing, and there would be less in the way of ship loss, and much more confident sort of jumping out and charging out of ships. And maybe those drop ships, when they're dropping troops off, they're dropping them off for like 3 seconds and then going, so they don't explode. What did you think of the overall sort of gameplay areas in? Because these platforms are massive.
I think maybe a bit too big, but it also might be a case of I don't really know the area yet, so it'll always feel bigger. Like once you know what the layout and everything, you sort of get used to it. It'll get smaller.
Yeah, I think that if you've got like 30 plus people all doing that mission together, all searching for the lieutenant on the particular platform or where the AA turret control is after you've killed him, I think that's actually probably the right size. They are massive. There's multiple levels in these giant buildings that you're going into. There's large open spaces. There's multiple little sort of like sub pads, sub floating platforms around these platforms. And some of them are absolutely ridiculously big. So you could get lost there easily, or just running around searching for a long time. I mean, it's gonna take you quite a few sessions of playing that mission before you've seen sort of like everything that it has to offer. Did you find any secrets or anything at all?
Nope.
So I found
I was having trouble staying alive.
Okay, yeah. Not much through the AI though. The NPC AI, they were pretty dumb during this test, right?
Oh yeah, no, I was getting killed by players either by accident or on purpose.
Yeah. That said, we don't know if anything was sort of like properly on purpose. Do you know what I mean? Sort of like more than...
I jumped out of a ship and then got gunned down by what I can only assume was somebody else who had jumped out the same ship as me.
Yeah.
That was very confusing.
Well,
so I gave him a criminal record. Yeah,
so you can push charges of people take you out. At one point, I turned up, I forgot to bring my armor with me, or I didn't have any armor that I could be asked to bring. So I just put the Nine Tails armor on. Someone came out of a lift and immediately just sprayed me down. But then they did heal me. And there was a lot of that going on. Sort of friendly fire happens or you get taken out. There's a lot of people just healing each other up, which is useful for the most part. We did think that there were problems with criminal ratings and friendly fire and just getting kicked off the mission and being able to retaliate against friendly fire. That should be sort of like a, I don't know, it needs to be handled in a different way maybe there.
Yeah. Because you don't want to make it so that people can take the piss with it and like mess around with it and cause grief.
Yes.
But you also can't have it so bad that you get a criminal rating for a single mistake sort of thing. Yes.
Or that people can then cheese. So, for example, people running in front of you when you're firing.
Yeah.
Things like that. That's sort of my worry, is that people will go, okay, there's the things to make sure that you can't PvP here, so that you get criminal rating and get kicked off the thing. Well, I'll just do a load of stuff that makes it so much harder for you to do that mission without overtly attacking you. So that's sort of my worry. Hopefully that'll be solved in some way. I think that obviously once we have Death of the Spaceman, we have like no more resets. There's more once you've been punished, it would be much harder to get into the Stanton system. So if you attack players and you literally get sent to prison or whatever, it's going to be much harder for you to ever get back into the Stanton system without reducing your criminal rating massively. So I think career criminals and career griefers and stuff like that, they're going to have a hard time getting into a load of these systems to try and do PvE events. So in the future, not so much of an issue probably. But we're criticised for what it is now. What did you think about the limited amount of ships? Do you think there's too few, or was it too hard to tell?
I think it was just that they needed to be marked.
Yeah.
But again, my markers were broken, so maybe they were, and I didn't know.
They were certainly marked when I got close to them.
But at the same time, I guess you don't really want your HUD just to be filled with all these ships up in the rooftops and stuff.
And that's a good point as well. The HUD and UI stuff. I want to be able to turn off alerts and I want to be able to tweak my HUD. So I go, I don't want this stuff to appear. I don't want missions to appear for people requesting combat service beacons or whatever while I'm busy on another event. Maybe I'd be okay with local medical requests.
Yeah.
But I don't want my HUD full of stuff and I don't want it popping up on my screen. It's quite annoying. We did find it, as I said earlier, really easy to find a group when you're there. There's people running around. Most people seem pretty friendly. Although you're going to get a range of people, for sure. And we were talking about secrets and stuff earlier. I found a couple of secrets. So going up to one of these sort of like big crates, there were a load of bodies in it, and it would basically played a scene with the audio going, "Oh my god, there's a lot of murders here. This is terrible." And then the Nine Tails going, "Lol, lol, lol, we killed them, lol, lol."
Is that literally what they said?
Well, maybe not exactly pretty close to that. But there was loads more little ones, and you can get codes for some of these sort of like cargo containers, some of which were like, some of them have like the AA controls in, so you turn them off, but some of them have medical supplies, some of them have ammo. There's loads of weapons and gear that you can loot throughout the event. So, and when you take out enemies, you will eventually run out of ammo, even if you brought loads. It's quite a long-winded set of missions. So I suspect a coordinated group could probably handle the mission in maybe like an hour and a half. You'd probably do it quicker if you sped run it or whatever. Yeah. But sort of comfortably and enjoyably, maybe an hour and a half. If you're doing it very casually, like 3 hours maybe, sort of thing. That's what that's what I feel like. So you are searching for these lieutenants. You are then searching for these cargo boxes to open up and turn off the AA turrets. You are then moving to those other platforms. And it's going to be dependent on how many other players are doing that mission with you. And it is an open mission, so players can join. When you die, bam, you're just going to respawn as long as you've set it to the Orison hospital. You respawn there. You can go straight back in. Something that I did find a little annoying was that I was hoping that we'd see significantly better netcode. It was pretty janktastic still. We were just janking around at the start when we were just pre-filming, sort of like to see if there was improvements. Zin was running around. She was like, "Oh no, actually no, it's pretty good. It's pretty good." And then she was like, "Oh no, you're not there anymore. Oh no, you've teleported. Where are you? Right, I know you're there." And then sort of janking around. If they can solve a load of these jank problems with the AI, with players, and sort of prediction and rubber banding, that'll be fantastic. That'll put the game in a significantly better place. Hopefully, there'll be some significant improvement in 3.17.2 as they tweak that network code stuff. One of the reasons we test things like these dynamic events is to iron out those bugs or to see if they get oversaturated or like they're not holding. And those bug fixes, they didn't seem to be great there, especially for the janktasticness of the game. Being in a lift, for example, as well, was terrifying. You didn't want to go in lifts, did you, with other people?
Well, I didn't want to. It wasn't I didn't want to go in the lift. I was going to let everybody else get in first.
Yeah.
And I got in last and then ended up at the back of the lift anyway.
Yeah, you just get janked but so as you vibrate.
Yeah.
That's terrifying being in a lift with other people. You keep on getting hit markers, but lifts don't seem to be as deadly. So you'll get like the pain and injury marker, but you don't die or you don't take damage. Or
I wasn't even sure if I actually took any damage, but I definitely got the markers pop up.
Yeah. So I like the fact that I wasn't dying in the lift. I did not like the feeling of being in the lift, though, with other people, especially when you're packing 6 people in the lift. Probably too many. But the whole event overall, it was pretty good fun. It was sort of like more fun than I've had in Star Citizen for a while. And it needs polish and refinement. But I think once that's there, that Siege of Orison will be something I do quite a bit. I think there's a good few hours to mess around there, and there's some great stories you can probably tell. I just think that as long as CIG tweaks some bits, polish some other bits, that it's probably in a good place. Maybe I sort of want to start to be able to see hostile markers when I'm close enough to an enemy.
Would that make it too easy, though?
I don't want it to be too easy, but what I don't want to do is kill friendlies.
Yeah.
I think one of the other sort of bits of advice that I can give people as well is that if a player you think might be friendly is shooting you, I just let them shoot me. Try and make it obvious that you're not a threat, but like doing like a little dance and then hiding behind like a pillar or something to hopefully they've realised their mistake. Because I would often see people getting gunned down and then getting healed.
It's better to err on the side of caution, because if you don't want to attack people and get a criminal rating, you are literally better off being killed and respawning and getting back to the mission. Because if you kill someone accidentally, or even like if they are being a PvPer and they just haven't got a crime stat, you will get a crime stat, and then you have to deal with that, and you fail the mission, you can't go back to the mission, you have to get yourself out of there without dying, because you'll probably then be a hostile to everybody else, and you've got to remove that crime stat.
And very often people will just heal you with medical tools anyway if you go down.
Yeah, it might be like, oh no, that was a mistake, I didn't realise.
And if you're like worried about losing your great gear, just go to Kelto before you start the mission.
Don't go in with your great gear. You don't need it anyway.
Yeah, you'll be picking up a load of gear off the bodies. If you want to be brave, wear the Ninetales armor, because that just confuses people slightly. But you'll be picking up guns constantly and picking up the ammo, and there's loads of ammo crates, and there's you putting codes. There's a load going on, and it's quite good fun, and there's loads of little secrets, and there's this huge area to explore. You can just jump in just by yourself, try and find a party while you're on the shuttle. You can talk in chat to get a party, or just follow some other people around. I would suggest turning on voice comms, because me and Zin were recording. We didn't have voice comms on in-game. We could hear other people, but we weren't talking. I do feel that we probably missed out on a load of communication and good fun by communicating with people in game that we probably should have been doing there. I mean, it's going to be great when you have everything working well, and then you also have that people using face over IP with voice over IP. and sort of like chatting to each other in the lift while they're getting there. And like, because it's got some great silly stuff that you can do with that face over IP stuff if it was transmitting properly. I just think that these sort of events, if they have hundreds of or dozens of these in Star Citizen in the future and a nice polished game, it's going to be great fun. It's going to be absolutely hilariously good fun. Because even with all the problems, Zin was clearly having fun, even though we were stranded for like half an hour at one point.
Mm-hmm.
Even though we were respawning and having to get back to the event, and then it took ages on a shuttle, and then we were getting blown up again, or the ships we were going in and were getting blown up. It was some ruddy good fun. But the game will do well with a lot more variety of stuff like this. Do you feel that the Siege of Orison is basically Cloud Imperium trying out Theatres of War type gameplay in the persistent universe?
Maybe. Is Theatres of War PvE, or is it not PvP, Battlefield style?
Yeah, so it is PvP Battlefield style.
I guess so, maybe. I think it's just them wanting to give us more stuff to do.
Yeah. It's a nice combined arms thing as well, because I do actually think it benefits for not being able to bring ships in from the spaceports nearby.
Oh, that'd be so cool if you could.
Do you think so?
Yeah, like, I think because the ferocity and how good the anti-aircraft turrets were, like, you literally would be risking your own ship bringing it in. And I think that's fine.
I think that what you'd have to do is you'd have to lock down Orison Crusader so that other people couldn't then turn up once the event started. Because otherwise you just have loads of people just bringing the ships from everywhere. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah, and they'd all die. It'd be fine.
Okay, no, maybe you're right. Maybe it's be interesting. I think that it loses a lot of its difficulty if you can just have infinite ships turning up. Because you do need a fail condition, maybe.
Yeah.
Or maybe you don't. Maybe you just have it sort of... Actually, it's just pretty hard. Because the Night Towers keep on respawning on those platforms. So always be careful. I say always be careful. The AI is pretty dumb that you can just go, oh, is that an AI? Walk up to them and go, yes, it is. And then shoot them. But overall, a fantastic event. And looking forward to playing it again once it's got a few more creases ironed out. Is there anything that you would like to see changed or fixed for the next version, the next time we play?
Just sort out the markers. Like, friendly markers is the biggest thing, and it will prevent any possible accidental kills, I think.
Yeah, it is annoying that obviously there is a persistent bug in Star Citizen where once you die or just occasionally you lose like your friend markers, and these markers that just denote friendlies also seem to be affected by that, and it still happens. So hopefully Cloud Imperium can sort that out. But yeah, damn good fun, and I think people should get involved. It is first wave PTU at the moment. We'll be going to open PTU and live later in July. Hopefully we'll see some more and improved testing of Siege of Orison before that and after that. But what do you think? Are you interested in the Siege of Orison? What would you like to see change? Were you participating in those playtests over the weekend? Are you like, this is absolutely fantastic? Were you like, this is hell? Sort of whatever your thoughts. I'd love to hear from you in the comments below. Say goodbye, Zin.
Goodbye, Zin.
Thanks very much, guys. You take care, and I'll see you in the verse or the Siege of Orison. Pew pew pew.
Greetings, citizen. I am NordVPN Man, bringing the justice of cybersecurity to the world. I protect you from ads, trackers, and malware. I punched a guy so hard once with security features that I knocked him back in time. He was able to use the knowledge of the future to become incredibly rich and wealthy. He bought like 10 subscriptions to nordvpn.com/BoredGamer after that. Really smart guy. Another time, I prevented a hacker from snooping at your IP address by taking off his hands. You can't hack with no hands. Probably. Anyway, you should get NordVPN, otherwise the terrorists win.
Every month we have a giveaway. For July 2022, we're giving away a Hull A cargo hauler, as well as a Nomad multi-role freighter. That Nomad also comes with a hovercraft bike. So there's 2 lucky winners this month, and both of those packages contain access to Star Citizen. Comment on any of my videos during this month to be in for a chance of winning that, and check the description down below for more details. Please consider becoming a Patreon or channel member with the join button under my videos. This nets you a variety of exclusive extras, badges, influence on the channel and content and special videos, as well as helping us produce daily content. Thank you very much for watching. Please take care, and I'll see you in the verse.